Gloria, your husband is mine forever, ever and ever.
Listen carefully,
This soup needs more
because
salt.
what
Go
I am
back and
about
fix
to
it.
tell you will make you check under your own bed tonight. This is the story of Madame Gloria, a woman who thought she was untouchable until her housemaid taught her that wickedness has an expiry date and has just expired. Madame Gloria was known throughout the neighborhood as the woman who changed housemaids like she changed her handbags. Every few months, a new girl would arrive with hope in her eyes. And every few months, that same girl would leave with tears streaming down her face. Gloria had a special talent for making people feel small. She would accuse them of stealing things she had misplaced herself. She would serve them cold food while she ate hot meals, and she would find the most creative reasons to send them away without paying their full salary. Her husband, Mr. Tiago, was a wealthy businessman who barely noticed what happened in his own house. He was always busy with contracts, meetings, and phone calls. As long as his shirts were ironed and his meals were ready, he did not ask questions. Gloria liked it that way. She was the queen of her castle, and everyone else was just a servant. But you see, when you plant wickedness like seeds in a garden, one day you will harvest a fruit so bitter that even water cannot wash away the taste. When Onome arrived as the new housemaid, Gloria looked at her with the same cold eyes she had given all the others. Onome was a quiet girl with a gentle face, the kind of person who said, "Yes, ma," even before you finished your sentence. Gloria smiled to herself. This one would be easy to control. What Gloria did not know was that Onome had not come to her house by accident. Onome had heard stories about Madame Gloria from 3 different girls in the market, and she had made a decision that this woman needed to learn a lesson she would never forget. For the first few weeks, everything was normal. Onome cooked, cleaned, and kept her head down. Gloria treated her exactly like she had treated all the others, with insults, impossible demands, and zero respect. She would call Onome at 3 in the morning just to bring her a glass of water that was sitting on the table next to her bed. She would taste the soup and spit it out dramatically, claiming it was too salty, even though Mr. Tiago had just finished 3 bowls of the same soup with a smile on his face. Then came December, and Gloria made the biggest mistake of her life. She packed her bags, wore her best traveling outfit, and headed to the village for Christmas, leaving Onome alone in the house with her husband. If only she knew that the moment her car drove out of that gate, Onome's real mission would begin. The same night Gloria left, Onome locked herself in her room and brought out a small bag she had hidden inside her mattress. Inside that bag was a bottle, not a normal bottle, but a spiritual bottle given to her by an ancient woman who lived near the 7 seas. This woman was so old that people said she had been alive before television was invented. When Onome had visited her and explained her problem, the old woman had laughed with a voice that sounded like dried leaves blowing in the wind. "You want to teach a wicked woman a lesson?" the old woman had asked. "Yes, ma," Onome had replied. "Then take this bottle. It will capture the spirit of any man you choose. Once his spirit is inside, he will do whatever you command. But remember, child, power is like pepper. Use too much and you will burn yourself." Onome had thanked the woman, paid her with the little money she had saved, and returned to the city with her weapon of revenge. Now, with Madame Gloria far away in the village eating Christmas rice and feeling like a queen, Onome opened that bottle and began the incantation that would turn the entire house upside down. She stomped her feet on the ground 7 times, exactly as the old woman had instructed. Each stomp echoed in the quiet room like a drum beat. Then she held the bottle up to her lips and whispered Mr. Tiago's full name 3 times. She watched as a strange mist began to swirl inside the bottle, moving in circles like a confused spirit trying to find its way out. She could see something small and glowing inside, struggling, turning, looking for escape. That was Mr. Tiago's soul, trapped like a fish in a jar. Onome smiled. Mr. Tiago, from this moment, you will see me as the most beautiful, important, and valuable woman in my life. You will treat me like a queen, and you will give me whatever I ask for.
By morning, when Mr. Tiago woke up, something had changed in his eyes. He came down for breakfast and saw Onome setting the table. But instead of walking past her like he used to, he stopped and stared at her as if he was seeing her for the first time. "Onome," he said softly, "you look radiant today." Onome pretended to be shy. "Thank you, sir. Please call me Tiago," he said, smiling in a way he had never smiled at his own wife. And that, my friends, was how the housemaid became the madame. And the madam's trouble began even before she returned from the village. Every day, Mr. Tiago would find reasons to be around Onome. He would ask her opinion on business deals. He would laugh at every small thing she said, even when it was not funny. He bought her new clothes, expensive perfumes, and jewelry that sparkled like stars. Onome, meanwhile, would go to her room every night, stomp her feet 7 times, raise the bottle, and make new commands. "Tiago, tomorrow you will buy me a gold wristwatch." And the next morning, Mr. Tiago would come home with a gold wristwatch, smiling like a man who had just won a lottery. "Tiago, you will take me to the most expensive restaurant in the city." And that evening, Mr. Tiago would cancel all his meetings and take Onome out to dinner while his business partners waited in confusion. Now, imagine Madame Gloria sitting in her village, eating fried chicken and boasting to her relatives about her big house and her rich husband, not knowing that at that very moment, her housemaid was sitting on her husband's lap like a president's wife. When Gloria's Christmas holiday ended, she packed her bags with village gifts, yams, dried fish, palm oil, and returned to the city feeling refreshed and powerful. She opened the door to her house with her key, expecting to see Onome rushing to collect her bags and welcome her back with respect. But what she saw instead made her freeze like a statue. There, in her own living room, on her own expensive Italian sofa, sat Onome, wearing a designer dress Gloria had never seen before. And she was not sitting alone. She was sitting on Mr. Tiago's lap, giggling and feeding him grapes like a Roman empress. Gloria's traveling bags fell from her hands and hit the floor with a loud crash. "Tiago, what is this nonsense? What is going on here?" You would think Mr. Tiago would jump up in shame, apologize, and send Onome away. But no, this man looked at his wife like she was a stranger who had just interrupted his honeymoon. "Gloria, lower your voice," Mr. Tiago said coldly. "You are disturbing Onome." Gloria's mouth opened, but no words came out. She looked from her husband to Onome, then back to her husband. Onome just smiled sweetly and waved at her like a beauty queen on a parade float. "Onome," Gloria finally managed to say, You are my housemaid. Get off my husband right now." But Mr. Tiago stood up, gently helping Onome to her feet as if she were made of glass. "She is not your housemaid anymore, Gloria. She is my guest. Treat her with respect." Gloria felt like the ground was shaking under her feet. She grabbed her bags and dragged them to her bedroom, her mind spinning with confusion and anger. She sat on her bed and tried to understand what had just happened. Had her husband gone mad? Had the world turned upside down while she was eating jollof rice in the village? But Gloria's suffering had only just started. What happened next would make her wish she had stayed in the village permanently. She took a shower, changed her clothes, and decided to act normal. Maybe it was just a misunderstanding. Maybe Tiago was playing some kind of joke. She went to the kitchen and prepared her favorite tea. Then she rang the small bell she always used to summon Onome. "Onome, come here and serve me my tea."
Onome appeared at the door, but she was not wearing her housemaid uniform. She was wearing a silk robe and gold slippers. She looked at Gloria with eyes that were no longer gentle or submissive. "Madam Gloria," Onome said slowly, "let me make something very clear to you. I am not your maid anymore. Do not ever call me to serve you again. If you are thirsty, serve yourself. If you are hungry, cook your own food. Those days are over." Gloria's hand began to shake. You cannot talk to me like that in my own house." Onome stepped closer, and her voice dropped to a whisper. "This is no longer your house alone, Gloria. Things have changed. If you know what is good for you, you will accept it and keep quiet." Then she turned and walked away, her silk robe flowing behind her like a queen's cape. That night, Gloria waited for her husband to come to bed so she could talk to him, woman to man, wife to husband. Surely he would listen to reason. Surely he would see that this was madness. When Mr. Chago finally entered the bedroom, Gloria sat up quickly. "Tiago, we need to talk about Onome. This whole situation is completely unacceptable. She is a housemaid and she is disrespecting me in my own home. You need to send her away immediately." Mr. Chago looked at her with eyes that were empty of love. "I am not sending Onome anywhere. In fact, I do not want to discuss this with you at all." He picked up his pillow and walked out of the room, closing the door behind him. Gloria sat in the darkness, tears streaming down her face. For the first time in her life, she felt completely powerless. But if you think that was bad, wait until you hear what happened the next morning. This is where Gloria realized that she was not in a bad dream. She was in a nightmare, and she was wide awake. Gloria woke up to the sound of excitement outside. She rushed to the window and looked down at the compound. There was a brand new Range Rover shining in the morning sun like a diamond, and standing next to it was Mr. Chago, holding the keys and smiling. But he was not smiling at Gloria. He was on his knees in front of Onome. "Onome, my dear, I am so sorry for how Gloria embarrassed you yesterday when she came back. Please forgive me. Accept this car as my apology." Onome pretended to think about it, then she smiled and collected the keys. "Oh, Tiago, you are too kind. Of course I forgive you." They hugged, and Mr. Chago kissed her hand like a prince in a fairy tale. Gloria watched from the window, her whole body trembling. She ran inside and locked herself in her bathroom, crying so hard that her makeup ran down her face like black rivers. Now, Gloria was many things, but she was not a fool. She knew that if she confronted them again, tomorrow Onome would be getting a private jet, so she decided to fight back in a different way. She went online and started watching videos. How to get your husband's attention back. 10 ways to look sexy for your man. Speak softly and win his heart. Gloria watched them all, taking notes like a student preparing for an exam. She bought new nightgowns, practiced walking in a sexy way, and started speaking in a soft, sweet voice that sounded nothing like her normal tone. The next morning, she wore her best dress, styled her hair beautifully, and approached Mr. Chago with a gentle smile. "Good morning, my darling husband," she said in her new voice. "I made your favorite breakfast. Would you like me to serve you?" Mr. Chago looked at her with confusion. "No, thank you. Onome already made my breakfast." Gloria's smile froze on her face. Onome was watching all of this from the corner of her eye, and she was not amused. She saw what Gloria was trying to do, and she decided to end this competition once and for all. That night, Onome went to her room, brought out the bottle, stomped her feet 7 times, and made a new command. "Tiago, tomorrow morning, you will tell your wife Gloria that she is now the housemaid of this house. You will tell her to serve Onome and me like we are the masters." The next morning, Mr. Tiago called Gloria to the living room. Onome was sitting on the sofa like a queen on her throne. "Gloria," Mr. Tiago said, "from today, you will be helping around the house. Onome is tired of doing everything alone. You will cook, clean, and serve us when we need anything." Gloria's world shattered into a million pieces. "Tiago, I am your wife. And as my wife, you should be happy to serve the people I care about. And that is how Madame Gloria, the woman who had maltreated dozens of housemaids, became a housemaid in her own house. Kama did not just visit her. Kama moved in and brought all its relatives. Every day, Gloria would cook meals and serve them to Onome and Mr. Tiago. Onome would taste the food and say things like, this rice is a bit dry. Next time, add more water. Or, this soup needs more salt. Go back and fix it. And Gloria, with tears in her eyes, would go back to the kitchen and fix it. Onome began to make bigger demands. Tiago, I want a piece of land in Lekki. By evening, Mr. Tiago would come home with land documents. Tiago, I want to build a house. Mr. Tiago would hire the best architects. Tiago, I want 3 more cars. Mr. Tiago would visit the car dealership like it was a grocery store. Gloria watched her marriage collapse like a building with no foundation. Every night, she would cry herself to sleep, wondering how everything had gone so wrong. One evening, when Gloria could not take it anymore, she did something she never thought she would do. She went to Onome's room and got on her knees. Onome, please, Gloria begged. I know I was wicked to you. I know I treated you badly. But please, leave my husband alone. I am begging you. Take whatever money you want. Take my jewelry. Take my cars. Just leave my marriage alone. Onome looked down at her with cold eyes. You are lucky, Gloria. You are very lucky that I do not want to marry your husband. If I wanted to, I would have commanded him to throw you out of this house and marry me instead. But I do not want him. I only wanted to teach you a lesson. Now get out of my room, you witch. Gloria ran out like a frightened animal.
But even wicked lessons must come to an end. Onome had gotten everything she wanted. She had houses, land, cars, and more money than she had ever dreamed of. She had taught Gloria the lesson of her life. Now it was time to leave. One morning, while Gloria was in the kitchen and Mr. Tiago was getting ready for work, Onome went to her room and brought out the bottle for the last time. She looked at the small glowing spirit inside, still moving in confusion. Mr. Tiago, she whispered, today you will be free. She went outside to the compound, raised the bottle high in the air, and smashed it on the ground. The glass shattered into 1,000 pieces, and the trapped spirit flew out like smoke, disappearing into the air. Then Onome picked up her bag, walked out of the gate, and disappeared forever. She did not say goodbye. She did not leave a note. She simply vanished like morning mist under the sun. When Mr. Tiago came downstairs that morning, something strange happened. He blinked several times, looked around the house like a man waking up from a long dream, and said, "Where is Onome?" Gloria, who was setting the table, looked up with tears of relief. She left Tiago. She is gone. But Mr. Tiago's face was confused. Onome? My Onome? Where did she go? Gloria's relief turned to horror. Even though the spell was broken, even though Onome was gone, Mr. Tiago's mind was not completely the same. Sometimes he would call Gloria Onome by mistake. Sometimes he would look around the house as if searching for someone. The damage had been done. Slowly, very slowly, Mr. Tiago and Gloria began to rebuild their marriage. But it was not the same. The trust was broken. The love was wounded. Gloria stopped taking in housemaids. She learned to clean her own house, cook her own food, and take care of her own husband. Every time she thought about calling someone to help her, she would remember Onome's face and change her mind. And sometimes, late at night, when the house was quiet, Gloria would think about all the girls she had maltreated over the years. She wondered where they were now. She wondered if they had told stories about her to their friends. She wondered if somewhere in the world, someone was laughing about how Madame Gloria finally got what she deserved. Thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment, and share to your loved ones. The end.